Welcome back, guys. So today we are revisiting the Super Retro-Cade from Retro-Bit. Man, this thing has been pretty sweet to me. I've been digging this thing. I've been loving messing around with it. The selection of games, the value behind it. I did purchase this myself and have really been digging it. I got it from CastleVaniaGames.com. If you want to grab one, highly recommended. Jump on over CastleVaniaGames.com. Link will be in the description. But what we're really here for today is to talk about a little expansion pack, a little bundle pack of additional games for the system. So, why do I love this thing? First off, $60 comes with two controllers that I feel are pretty good. HDMI cable, power supply, everything good to go. A solid set of 90 games included. Now, a lot of people, and I'm just going to stop you there, are going to say, just get a Raspberry Pi, get a Pi, a Retro Pi, bro it up. And I agree with you, man. But at the same time, the value is there for this device. Simple to use, easy to add games, a lot easier than tinkering around with a Raspberry Pi. Anybody can build a Raspberry Pi, Retro Pi setup, but not everybody wants to. Not everybody wants to put in that investment. That's why people download images, do all that good stuff. But then at the same time, there's still some setup involved. So some people don't want to mess with that. Some people want to plug and play. And this plug and play goes beyond any other plug and play, in my opinion, in that you can add games very easily, expand upon it, and get in on it now and quick and just enjoy yourself. The other thing is that you don't have to use the controllers that come with the system. There is support for certain other ones, but just don't blindly buy controllers for the system if you want to try something out. What I recommend is that Castlevania Games does have a little subsection. If you go into the Retro-Bit section and you go into the Super Retro-Cade area, it will have all the controllers that are compatible with the system listed there. I'm not telling you just so you buy the controllers from him, but it's a good reference point because he is actively testing controllers, trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. But, if you want to buy one, you might as well grab one from him anyway. Prices are lower. Shipping is either free or very cheap. It's always free over $20, so why not? But that's all beside the point. This thing is sweet for a lot of reasons, and today what we're going to be talking about is this little add-on pack that I've done. So let's go ahead and install that, or insert that, select SD card, and boom, here we go. 50 games, solid 50 games. That's what I'm talking about. All the artwork configured, everything tested, the games work. So if you've built like a Retro Pi image, like for me anyway, I'm pretty thorough. I like to make sure the arcade stuff works because that's always the headache, in my opinion anyway. And it's no different with the Super Retro-Cade. You can't just throw games on there and expect them to work. If you do it that way, you're going to be very disappointed. It does take a little bit of testing, but for the most part, you should be successful as long as if you're doing MAME games, you're not messing with the naming of them. You cannot change the file name for these games. They will not work. If you do, most likely, MAME will just not recognize them. The system does use MAME. But that's about it. The only thing is sometimes there's going to be different ROM sets that you grab, and things could just not be compatible. Like one version of the game might work, another one might not. So it does take a little bit of testing. You just can't be confident that the ROM set you have is going to work on here. So that's what I'm trying to do, is compile a nice set of games, arcade games. That's all I care about, is arcade games, and just keep expanding on it and creating add-on packs to this system where we have this artwork and the games are working, and they're set up properly, the aspect ratios and that kind of stuff. So to touch on this artwork, some people might be like, well, why isn't it just the full-on, like the whole screen or that whole box is like a screenshot? For me, if you do that, it's, unless you're doing the title screen, it's going to be kind of difficult to tell what the game is if you're not really familiar with it. So for me, doing like this 3-piece artwork that I just like the style, I had this put together this way for this, with the naming done properly for the artwork to show up. But I like this because the logo or the name, it kind of overlaps the screenshot and the black background, kind of, that black bezel. and it makes it a little easier to read what the game is. If you just had that logo like smack dab in the middle of the screenshot, it could be a little too, the screenshot could be a little too busy to where, that image might kind of blend in or is not as readable. So that's the reason I did it this way. You can always change things the way you want. But for me and all the add-ons I'm going to do, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm going to keep this same style of artwork to keep it uniform and to just keep on making these packs of tested games that work. So this one is a set of 50 games. That's all I've been able to get done, because it is a little time consuming doing this, just because of testing and then converting the artwork and all that good stuff. So it is a little time consuming. 50 games is not like bam, like a minute you're done. Had to put in a little time and effort to make sure everything was good. But yeah, just to show you, like Miss Pac-Man, boom, you have the correct aspect ratio. And I'll show you if something isn't the aspect ratio that it's supposed to be, the easiest way to do it is to configure that on the title screen, or not on the title screen of the game, but on the game select screen. And we'll go ahead and look at that right now. But bam, Miss Pac-Man looking good. So select and start exits you out, return to main menu. Now if Miss Pac-Man, for example, wasn't the correct aspect ratio, you'd press select, go to video, and then select original size. Any of these games, if you select original size, it's going to give you that original aspect ratio that the game was designed for. If you don't, it's just going to be stretched out. Or if you boot up a game and it's stretched out and it doesn't look right, you need to go back and go to original size. I have everything in the files and the configuration set to the original size for all of these games. Everything works pretty well. I've not had any issues. Everything on here is solid and runs the way it should, in my opinion. The one thing, and I'm going to point out, is with these fighting games, the Street Fighter games. So let's go ahead and get in here. The base configuration of what the buttons do could be a little troublesome, but not really. It's very simple. What I highly recommend you do is, for a game like this, Super Street Fighter, which is going to be any of these Capcom fighters, if you just look at this once, you're going to want to take some notes. So get into a game, any fighting game on here. So let's go ahead and peep this out. Typically on this controller, the X, A, and B button are going to be your punch buttons, but you might not like that. I don't even like that. And then the Y, L, and R are going to be your kicks. So that's not, that's not the best style for me. I mean, maybe some people will like it and, can deal with that. But for people who are really into Street Fighter, you're not going to want to have the controls set up that way. So what I would highly recommend is you jump into a game like this and document real quick on a piece of paper what the actual A button does. Is that light punch, medium punch, high punch? What's the X button? Write it down for each one. And then once you have that all written down and you know what each button on this controller is assigned to, then you can go ahead and change your controller input. And the way you do the controller input is you just press select on the screen, go to controller input. If you're just doing player one, highlight player one, press A, and then go up to your buttons like A. Okay, we know A, for example, is high punch, but say we want X to be high punch. So you would go to A. You have to look at this and be like, A is high punch. That's all you need to remember. Like, once you know what it does, A is high punch. I want X to be high punch. So instead of reading A on the left, how it's two A's, the A on the left and then the A on the right. The A on the left you're going to want to read for as example high punch, not as A. Just remember it that way. Just have your little diagram or whatever you wrote. So A is high punch. I want A to be X. So you would hit A and then X. And then, okay, let's say B is low punch. I want low punch to be L. That kind of thing. And then you would just assign each one. And then once you're done, you would hit apply. And now that will save that for that particular game. If you mess up or whatever, you can hit clear and it just resets it. So that's how you do that. Pretty simple, easy peasy. Link will be out there for this if you're interested in throwing this on your Super Retro-Cade, and I am going to continually add to it. Maybe little packs of 50 or 25, just depending on, what kind of time I got. The other thing we are going to be doing is I'm going to be sacrificing one of these controllers. I'm going to be converting it into an arcade stick for this system. I've actually had a lot of ideas I've been thinking about lately on how to really set this little box up to be something cool. Kind of inspired by what Retro-Bit did for their displays at CES, that kind of thing. I'm wanting to convert one of my own into something, either putting it in its own stick or just making a stick for it, maybe making a bar top out of it. I don't know, something. But for sure, the first thing I'm going to be doing is making one of these into a full-on arcade stick. And we will be doing some videos on that so you can see what I did and how it works and copy that if you want to do the same thing. It's pretty simple. I used to do it back in the day, taking Dreamcast controllers and converting them into arcade sticks. So it's going to be even easier with these. So there we have it. Appreciate you guys stopping in. Smash that like button, subscribe, do all that wonderful stuff. If you're interested in this system, boom, check it out on CastlemaniaGames.com. If not, and you just want to stick to the Raspberry Pi or the Odroid, we're going to be having a lot of content on that as well. So don't worry. We're still good, man. We're still working on stuff. A lot of cool stuff out there, but man, I like to look at these things, and I have been really digging this. So smash it, like it, hit that notification bell, subscribe, do all that cool stuff, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye-bye. Peace out. Boom. Bye.